Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take the sources you share with us and cut right through the noise, extracting the most essential, unexpected, and genuinely useful knowledge.
Today, we are tackling a question that I think is on a lot of people's minds, especially if you're in a hurry in the morning.
Absolutely. Is instant coffee, or as it's known in Turkey and many other places, granular kahve, actually bad for you?
Is there a hidden chemical cost to all that convenience?
That's the question. It's the ultimate modern trade-off, isn't it? Convenience versus, potential concern.
It is. Instant coffee gives you incredible speed. It lasts forever on the shelf. You can take it anywhere.
But to get that, to turn a brewed liquid into a powder, it goes through this intense industrial process.
Right, and we have to ask, what chemical compromises are being made along the way?
So that's our mission for this deep dive. We're not just going to summarize. We're going to unpack the specific chemical risks that come with instant coffee compared to, say, traditionally brewed or filtered coffee.
And we're going to balance those risks against the very real, very powerful health benefits that all coffee offers. Because, and our sources really hammer this home, coffee is so much more than just caffeine and water.
It's a complex chemical delivery system.
A very complex one. And the manufacturing process changes that system in a fundamental way.
Okay, so as we dug into the research, what we found were really two main areas of concern when it comes to the instant kind.
That's right. First, you have the processing byproducts, things that are created by the heat itself, like acrylamide.
And second, environmental and packaging toxins, things that creep into the final product.
And we're going to weigh all of that against coffee's amazing antioxidant profile, which for many people is the biggest source of antioxidants in their entire diet.
That sets the stage perfectly. So let's start with that first area of concern, the high heat byproduct that's been under the microscope for years, acrylamide.
Acrylamide, or AA. It sounds very industrial, very chemical.
It does.
But the first thing you need to understand is that it's not added to coffee. It's not an additive. It forms naturally.
It's an inescapable consequence of high heat cooking.
Exactly. It's a direct result of the Maillard reaction.
The Maillard reaction. Okay, let's unpack that for a second because that's a term we hear a lot in food science.
It's one of the most important chemical reactions in cooking, period. It's what happens when high heat makes sugars react with an amino acid, specifically an amino acid called asparagine.
And asparagine is just naturally abundant in coffee beans.
In coffee beans, in potatoes, in a lot of starchy foods.
So the very thing that gives coffee its desirable qualities, that dark color, the nutty flavor, all those amazing aromas, that's the Maillard reaction at work.
That is the engine of flavor. It's what gives bread its crust and steak its savory char. Acrylamide is just, let's say, a less agreeable chemical cousin that comes along for the ride.
And since about 2002, it's been under intense scrutiny for potential health risks.
Primarily, yes, because of findings that it can potentially damage the nervous system and has shown carcinogenic effects in certain lab models.
Now, you mentioned it's hard to definitively say if it's carcinogenic in humans. Why is it so hard for regulators to just put a number on it and say, this is the safe amount?
It's because of its ubiquity.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's in French fries, potato chips, crackers, breakfast cereals, baked goods. If you eat a modern diet, you are consuming acrylamide.
So trying to pinpoint a safe level from just one source, like coffee, is basically impossible because your total exposure is cumulative from everything else you eat.
Precisely, which makes it a huge challenge for international bodies.
So what approach has, say, the European Union taken? How do they try to manage this?
The EU has taken it very seriously, especially since 2018. They've established these stringent recommendation values and detailed guidelines for food producers.
And that's based on what the science is telling them.
It is. The data from animal and in vitro cell-based studies is pretty clear. It's established AA as a peripheral nervous system toxin.
A peripheral nervous system toxin. Can you translate that for us? What does that actually mean for the body?
It means that long-term, low-dose exposure can harm the nerves that are outside of your brain and spinal cord. So the nerves running through your arms and legs.
Okay. And what would that feel like?
Clinically, it's called peripheral neuropathy. It can manifest as numbness, a pins and needles sensation, maybe muscle weakness. In really high exposure cases, like with industrial workers historically, they saw things like skin peeling and coordination problems.
Wow, that's a very tangible physical risk. But the concerns seem to go deeper than just the peripheral nerves.
They do. Research models suggest it might be implicated in more chronic neurological issues. Some studies have shown links in models related to conditions like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's.
How does it do that? What's the mechanism?
It's thought to happen because AA can increase what are called reactive oxygen species, or ROS, which basically create cellular stress and can damage proteins and DNA.
And the sources also pointed to a pretty serious concern about reproductive health.
Yes, and this is a detail that often gets missed. Acrylamide and, more importantly, its metabolite, a chemical called glycitamide.
So that's what your body turns it into.
Exactly. It's what your body produces when it tries to detoxify the acrylamide. And that metabolite, GA, showed significant reproductive toxicity in both male and female rats.
What kind of damage are we talking about?
In males, it damaged the cells that are crucial for sperm and testosterone production. In females, it could induce ovarian dysfunction by basically telling cells to self-destruct.
So it's a systemic concern, not just a nervous system issue.
It really is.
Okay, that gives us a really solid understanding of the risks of acrylamide in general, which is in all roasted coffee. But now let's get to the heart of this deep dive, the instant coffee trade-off. How does its acrylamide content really stack up against regular ground coffee?
This is the single most important data point, I think. Instant coffee contains significantly more acrylamide than regular ground coffee.
And we're not talking about a small difference here.
No, not 10 or 20%. The research consistently shows it's often twice as much.
Twice as much. That is a huge difference. That right there is the hidden cost. So what is it about the industrial process that causes that massive jump?
It comes down to the extra steps. Regular coffee is roasted and then brewed. That's it.
One round of heat.
Right. Instant coffee is roasted, then it's brewed into this really strong concentrated liquid, and then that liquid has to go through a second intense high heat process, dehydration.
Dehydration.
Right.
To turn it into the powder or the granules?
Exactly. So that second blast of high heat is like a turbocharger for the Maillard reaction. It just cranks up the formation of acrylamide that was already created during the initial roast.
I see. So whether they're spray drying it or even freeze drying it, there's more processing, more heat, and that's the chemical culprit.
That's the culprit. It compounds the problem.
So if we take these higher levels and put them in the context of those EU guidelines, how worried should the average person be? Is 1 cup putting you in the danger zone?
For an average moderate drinker, no. The acute risk is still considered low. Most instant coffee samples do fall below that EU regulatory limit.
Right.
But this is where awareness is key. If you're a high-volume consumer, someone drinking 4 or 5 big mugs of instant coffee every single day.
You could be pushing your total daily exposure over those recommended limits pretty quickly.
Very quickly, especially when you remember all the other sources.
The chips, the bread, everything else you're eating that's been toasted or fried, it's an additive risk.
Exactly. If you're starting your day with a baseline dose from your coffee that's already twice as high, your safety margin for the rest of the day just got a lot smaller.
That really puts it into perspective.
Right.
Now, for someone who loves their instant coffee but is now concerned about this, are there any practical things they can do? Any mitigation strategies?
Yes, and this is a really interesting one. It's based on the roast profile. You would think darker roast means more heat, so more acrylamide, right?
That's what I would assume, yeah.
But the research actually shows that generally, dark or light roast coffees have the least amount of acrylamide. The highest levels are often found in medium roasts.
Wait, really? Medium roast is the worst for acrylamide. Why is that?
It seems to be a kind of chemical sweet spot, or I guess a sour spot.
A bell curve?
It's a bell curve, exactly. In the light roast, the Maillard reaction hasn't fully ramped up yet. In the medium stage, conditions are perfect for peak AA formation. But as you continue to that very dark roast, the intense prolonged heat actually starts to break down the acrylamide that's already formed.
So it peaks and then starts to decline. That is a fantastic, actionable tip. If acrylamide is your concern, avoid the middle ground.
As low as reasonably achievable. It's a key regulatory principle. It means manufacturers have to be constantly looking for ways to reduce these risks, using different enzymes to pre-treat the beans, for example, or using new vacuum roasting technologies that work at lower temperatures.
Okay, so acrylamide is the big byproduct of convenience, but it's not the only chemical concern. We also have to look at contaminants from the environment and even the packaging.
That's the reality of a global commodity, right? The beans are grown in different soils, with different farming practices, shipped in different materials. Let's start with heavy metals.
The sources flagged a few of these, and they're basically just naturally occurring elements.
Correct. Analysis of instant coffee samples found detectable levels of inorganic arsenic, lead, and chromium. The good news is that cadmium and mercury were generally undetected.
And the levels of these metals really depend on where the coffee is grown.
Heavily. There's a strong geographical link. For instance, coffees grown in regions with active volcanic soil, like parts of Hawaii, tended to have the highest heavy metal levels.
Because the soil itself just has more of those elements in it.
Exactly. So the origin of the bean is a key factor.
And when researchers assessed the risk from all these different contaminants, the picture was pretty nuanced, especially when they combined it with acrylamide.
It was. This is where we have to talk about how they measure risk. For non-cancer-causing toxins, they use something called the hazard quotient, or HQ.
And for those, the news was pretty good.
Generally, yes. For things like cadmium, chromium, and the non-genotoxic effects of lead and AA, the risk indicators suggested that consumption was within a safe range.
Okay, so not an immediate acute toxicity problem, but the real concern shifts when we look at long-term chronic risk.
Exactly. The moderate risk area is all about genotoxicity, the potential for these compounds to damage your DNA over time, which can lead to cancer.
And which compounds were the main drivers of that risk?
It was inorganic, arsenic, and acrylamide. When they were looked at together, they contributed to what was defined as a moderate cancer risk in instant coffee from certain regions.
Okay, what does a moderate cancer risk actually mean in numbers?
It's a probability, usually between 1 in a million and 1 in 10,000. So a 1 times 10 to the minus 4 risk, for example, means that if 10,000 people drank that coffee daily for a lifetime, one person might statistically develop cancer because of that specific exposure.
It's not a guarantee, but it's a persistent cumulative risk that you're adding every day.
And that's why regulators focus on it. It's the long-term, low-dose exposure that's the concern.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, beyond metals from the soil, what about things like pesticides?
Here we saw some, frankly, shocking data. The sources looked at glyphosate, the common herbicide, and its main residue, which is called AMPA.
Okay.
And in one particular study, 100% of organic coffees tested had detectable AMPA residue.
Wait, 100% of organic coffee? How is that even possible? Organic farming bans glyphosate.
It's a really sobering look at how persistent environmental contamination is.
So cross-contamination.
It has to be. Drift from neighboring conventional farms, contaminated water runoff, maybe shared processing equipment. Even if your specific farm is clean, the environment it sits in might not be.
And while the roasting process is supposed to break down the glyphosate itself, the residue, AMPA, clearly sticks around.
It does. Now, the levels are generally low compared to other crops, but the fact that it's present in every single organic sample they tested just shows how pervasive these chemicals are in our global food chain.
That's incredible. Okay, so we have contaminants from the earth, residues from farming. What about what we add through packaging?
This is a huge one for instant coffee. We're talking about phthalates.
Phthalates, those are the plasticizers, right? Chemicals that make plastics flexible.
Exactly. And they're known to leach into food. The analysis showed phthalates were found in 70% of the coffee samples tested.
And did the type of packaging matter?
It mattered immensely. The highest levels of phthalates were found in canned coffee and in coffee pods.
Wow, so that's another really powerful, actionable insight. If you're buying instant coffee, the packaging you choose makes a direct difference to your chemical exposure.
A huge difference. Choosing a glass jar or a bulk bag over plastic pods or a can is a very clear mitigation strategy.
Okay, this is critical information. Let's shift now from chemical contaminants to a biological marker of aging, telomere length. This is where the difference between instant and brewed coffee gets visible right down at the cellular level.
Right. This is where we look at huge data sets, like the UK Biobank study, to see long-term health impacts based on the type of coffee people drink.
And telomeres, just as a quick reminder, are what?
They're the protective caps on the ends of our chromosomes. You can think of them as biomarkers of cellular aging. Each time a cell divides, they get a little bit shorter.
And shorter telomeres are linked to age-related diseases.
Generally, yes.
Yeah.
Now, the link between overall coffee drinking and telomere length has always been a bit messy. Some studies showed a benefit, some showed none.
But the UK Biobank study was able to make a key distinction.
They separated the data. They looked at instant coffee drinkers versus filtered coffee drinkers. And once they did that, the picture became crystal clear.
What did they find?
They found that instant coffee intake showed a distinct negative causal association with telomere length.
So drinking more instant coffee was linked to shorter telomeres. It was the primary driver of the negative trend they saw in the overall coffee drinking population.
It was. and the effect was measurable. In their models, each additional daily cup of instant coffee was associated with a 0.38 to 0.58 year age-related decrease in telomere length.
That may not sound like a lot for one cup, but if you're drinking 2 or 3 cups a day for 20 years...
It becomes cumulative and potentially very significant. Biologically, it suggests an acceleration of cellular aging.
That is a profound finding. Why do you think that is? Is it just the higher acrylamide, or is something else going on?
It's likely a combination of factors. The higher load of acrylamide and inorganic arsenic definitely contributes to oxidative stress and DNA damage, which we know shortens telomeres. But it could also be that the intense dehydration process for instant coffee degrades some of the protective, heat-sensitive compounds that are better preserved in filtered coffee.
So it's a double whammy. You're getting more of the bad stuff, like acrylamide, and potentially less of the good protective stuff.
That seems to be the most likely explanation. And it's really highlighted by the other side of their finding.
Which was?
Filtered coffee intake showed NO statistically significant association with telomere length. None.
So the negative effect was driven entirely by the instant variety.
Primarily, if not entirely. It just underlines that the difference here isn't just about taste or convenience. It's a measurable biological trade-off at the cellular level.
That is staggering. Okay, let's quickly touch on the 2 things people always compare: caffeine and antioxidants.
Right. On caffeine, it's simple. Instant coffee is the lower caffeine option. You're looking at maybe 30 to 90 milligrams per cup.
Compared to brewed, which can be up to 140 milligrams.
Easily. So for people who are sensitive to caffeine, that's actually a big plus for instant.
And what about the antioxidants, the main health draw?
Both types are absolutely packed with them. Because instant coffee is so concentrated, it might even have slightly higher concentrations of certain antioxidants by weight. But, as the telomere data suggests, freshly brewed coffee likely retains a broader range of some of those more delicate, heat-sensitive nutrients that get degraded during that intense dehydration process. But the bottom line is, the overall antioxidant value is high in both.
Okay, we have to pause here because we've been focused on the risks, but the sources are equally clear about the immense health benefits of coffee compounds.
Absolutely. We can't paint coffee as the villain. It's a functional food, and it's often the single biggest source of antioxidants in the modern diet.
And the star player in that antioxidant lineup is chlorogenic acid, or CGA.
CGA is the powerhouse. It's the most abundant polyphenol in coffee, and it's linked to most of its powerful health benefits.
Chemically, what is it?
It's an ester of caffeic acid and quinic acid, and it's actually what contributes to some of that bitter or astringent taste in coffee.
And this brings us back to processing, because CGA is very sensitive to heat.
Extremely. Green, unroasted coffee has the highest concentration. The entire roasting process is this delicate dance between developing flavor and trying not to destroy all the CGA.
Even the way the beans are washed matters.
It does. The sources indicated that wet processing, where the fruit is removed from the bean before drying, is generally better for retaining antioxidants than the dry method.
So assuming you've got a coffee with high CGA levels, what is that actually doing for your body?
The benefits are systemic. Let's start with cardiovascular health.
Okay.
CGA is associated with better blood flow, especially after a meal, and with improved endothelial function.
The endothelium is the lining of your blood vessels.
Exactly. Keeping that lining flexible and healthy is key to reducing your risk for heart disease and atherosclerosis, the hardening of the arteries.
It also seems to affect blood pressure.
Yes. Studies suggest it can cause a moderate but statistically significant reduction in both systolic and diastolic blood pressure. And that's an effect from the CGA itself, not related to the caffeine.
And beyond the heart, there's a huge role in metabolism.
A huge role. CGA helps regulate glucose levels. It can slow down the absorption of carbs and modulate how your liver releases glucose. This is the huge reason why coffee drinkers consistently show a lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes.
Then there's the anti-inflammatory and even anti-cancer activity.
Right. CGA is a powerful scavenger of free radicals, which helps reduce inflammation throughout the body. And in terms of anti-cancer activity, some promising studies on colorectal cancer cell lines showed that CGA and its metabolites could inhibit cancer cell growth.
I remember the source said the timing was important in those studies.
It was a key detail. The ability to stop the cells from multiplying was often only seen after longer incubation times, like 48 or 96 hours.
So it suggests the benefit might come from sustained exposure over time, not just a single dose.
That's the thinking, yes. It's a chronic protective effect.
Let's zoom out now from specific compounds to the entire system, especially the gut-brain axis, our gut microbiome.
This is one of the most exciting frontiers in coffee research. We now know that coffee compounds directly and beneficially shape our gut health. Two key players here are melanoidins and dietary fiber.
Melanoidins. We know they're also a product of the Maillard reaction, just like acrylamide, but these ones are good for us.
Yes, they're large brown molecules that are also powerful antioxidants. But more importantly, they function as prebiotic fiber.
Meaning they're indigestible.
Right. They survive the journey to your colon, and once they're there, they become food for your beneficial gut microbiota.
So you're literally feeding the good bacteria.
You are. And that contributes to better bowel function, keeping things moving. Even the spent coffee grounds we throw away are full of fiber that has been shown to help with appetite reduction.
And drinking coffee measurably shifts the makeup of that microbial community.
It does. Even just 3 cups a day has been shown to promote the growth of beneficial bacteria like lactobacillus and bifidobacterium.
And at the same time, it decreases some of the potentially harmful populations.
Exactly. Things like certain strains of E. coli and Clostridium.
And there was a fascinating link between coffee, the gut, and mental health, especially under stress like sleep deprivation.
This was a key study. They used sleep-deprived animal models and found that both regular coffee and critically decaffeinated coffee helped with depression-like behaviors and restored the gut microbiome that had been disrupted by the stress.
The fact that decaf worked is the smoking gun, isn't it? It proves the benefit isn't just from the caffeine buzz.
That's the entire point. The other compounds, the polyphenols, the melanoidins, the CGA, are powerful enough on their own to regulate the gut and mitigate the neurological effects of that chronic stress.
That really brings the whole conversation into balance. Coffee is inherently beneficial. It's packed with protective compounds.
But the way we process it to make it instant, to make it granule cave, introduces these specific, measurable risks that can potentially chip away at those benefits, especially when it comes to long-term cellular aging.
Okay, so we've laid out the benefits and the drawbacks. Let's synthesize this into the bottom line for the listener.
Right. What does this all mean when you're standing in the grocery store? The verdict on whether instant coffee is harmful really comes down to how you manage risk.
Let's start with the safety verdict. For acute, non-cancer causing toxins, the risk indicators there suggested that for the average person, consumption is within a safe range.
That's the first takeaway. A cup of instant coffee isn't going to acutely harm you. The vigilance needs to be focused on that moderate risk area.
The chronic long-term effects.
The genotoxic effects, the potential cancer risk from the combined cumulative exposure to inorganic arsenic and those elevated acrylamide levels. That's where proactive risk management comes in.
So let's translate all this data into clear, actionable advice. How can the listener apply that LRR principle as low as reasonably achievable to their own choices?
We have 4 core strategies. First is source quality.
Okay.
Choose organic when you can. It generally means fewer industrial contaminants, though as we saw, it doesn't eliminate everything. Also, pay attention to where your coffee comes from. If heavy metals are a concern, you might avoid coffees grown in volcanic soil.
Okay, that makes sense. Second strategy, go back to acrylamide and the simple choice of roast profile.
This is the easy one. If acrylamide is high on your list of concerns, and the telomere data suggests it should be, then opt for light or dark roasts over medium roasts.
Avoid the middle ground.
Avoid the middle ground.
Third strategy, and this seems to be the biggest one from our whole deep dive, the brewing method.
This is probably the most significant finding for long-term health. The data clearly showed a negative association between instant coffee and telomere length, a marker for cellular aging.
While filtered coffee showed no such link.
Right, so if your priority is mitigating those markers of accelerated aging, the science supports switching from instant to a regular brewing method, even a simple pour-over. That extra 2 minutes of your time appears to yield a measurable biological benefit.
And finally, the fourth strategy, which was a surprising one, packaging.
To reduce your exposure to phthalates, the plasticizers, you should specifically avoid canned coffee and be mindful of plastic pods.
The research was clear on that.
Very clear. The highest levels were found in cans and pods. So choosing coffee in a glass jar or a bag is a direct way to lower that specific chemical risk.
So what we're really saying is that the incredible convenience of instant coffee comes with this measurable, if moderate, chemical trade-off.
It's a trade-off driven by that secondary high heat process, which jacks up the acrylamide, and the risk of contaminants from certain types of packaging, which can add phthalates.
And of course, the manufacturers have a huge responsibility here to keep improving their processes to minimize these risks from the start.
Absolutely. The consumer can only choose from what's on the shelf. The industry controls what gets put there in the first place.
What a detailed journey. We started by asking if granular coffee is harmful, and the answer, like always, is nuanced.
It's not acutely toxic. It delivers a powerful dose of those vital antioxidants, like chlorogenic acid, which we know are great for us.
But the process of making it instant, of dehydrating it into a powder, is chemically demanding. It concentrates certain risks, higher acrylamide, a chronic risk from arsenic, plasticizers that are either avoided or significantly lowered with traditional filtered coffee.
And the data point that really puts a fine point on it is that biological marker, the negative link between instant coffee and telomere length, that indicator of cellular aging, the link that was just absent in filtered coffee drinkers.
The convenience really does seem to come with a trade-off that might be written into our cells.
And that leads to our final thought. We often choose instant coffee to save a few precious minutes in our busy morning. We're trading meticulous preparation for more time.
Given the evidence we've seen, which suggests that daily instant coffee consumption correlates with a small but measurable shortening of our telomeres, what is the true lifetime cost in terms of our biological clock of saving those few minutes each day? It's a subtle biological trade-off, and it's one worth thinking about with every